Runner up for best synth ever. Not bad. Not bad, David. This is an incredible synthesizer. I've never bought a synth so fast. Immediately, as soon as I heard it, I knew I had to have it. Paid my own hard-earned money for this thing. It's not a sponsored deal or anything like that. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to share some of my favorite features. I have about 5, but knowing my brain, I'm going to just kind of tail off and probably end up doing something else. So yeah, some reasons why I love this thing. Let's just go ahead and just jump straight into it. All right, so the Pro 3. Let me start this off by saying, actually, you know what? One second. All right, so let me start this off by saying I have not finished the manual yet. I'm about halfway through, and it's really, really good. I would almost say that this is, you know what, bonus point. The manual's actually really good because it's filled with a lot of information as well as just history about synthesis and, you know, like the original sequencers and modular synthesizers were used as modulation source. So like there's just fun, cool, creative things. And then one of my favorite things, I don't know why, it just made me smile. This whole thing just makes me smile. Where's it at? So stop reading and start playing. Cheers, Dave Smith. Thank you, Dave. That's exactly what we're about to do. So with that said, no, I have not finished the manual yet, but there's so much, and this thing is so deep and just so fun to use. Right here, this page that we're on right now, it's the glide section. What's cool here is that you have individual oscillator glide. So you're not just stuck to a general glide for everything. I have the arpeggiator on, so check this. I have a Paraphonic patch going. I just made this right now a couple of seconds ago. I can turn up the glide for just, let's say, oscillator 3, which is our highest note one. Hear it sliding, just that one note. Play a chord, maybe that. Throw that into an arpeggiator. Let's do some hold. Listen to that. That's dope. SEM filter, yes please. So I find that glide, let's just go to show the glide, is a fun way to add some, you know, instability to your sounds. And if you really wanted to add glide to everything, just turn the glide rate. It'll apply to all of them. I wonder, you know what? Here's something that's kind of weird. So on the Pro 3, you can actually, the mod matrix is really, really deep. If we go to our mod slots here, you got fixed mods. You have 32 mod slots and then a bunch of fixed mod slots as well, which is great. So those 32 can just be assigned here. I wonder if I can assign LFO1 to, let's do it here, to the glide rate. Ah, finally, Jesus. So I've been trying to find a couple things that I cannot assign, and that's one. Okay, cool. I've tried so many things. And that's another point about the Pro 3 that I love is you can assign anything to wherever, forever. So let's say we have this little arpeggiated chord going, right? It's great. I can just say LFO1. If you just select this, hold down destination, turn a knob, it's there. Now LFO1 is there, and I can just dial it back. A little slower. And check this. LFO2, destination, this part. Slow that down. Incredible. And then let's say LFO2. So since this is a dedicated destination here, this is one of the fixed mod slots, but I can also say source LFO2, just hit that combo, destination, let's send it to the decay of our filter envelope. And now by how much? So LFO2 is now opening up the filter cutoff. for the amplitude, or for the filter envelope, and then closing it down, making it really plucky. But when this is opening up, look how fast that was. All right. So here's another thing. So I like synthesizers. I mean, almost too much in most cases. But I love this synthesizer. This has been beyond fun to use. Just the immediacy and the weird nature of how this thing works is just so much fun to use, and half the time I'm barely scratching the surface. Like, I can't even get through reading the manual without just wanting to hop on this thing and just start trying something new, trying to apply this and do that and do this, and like everything. The sequencer is cool, the mod matrix is cool, just the speed at which you can assign anything. Like, let's just assign oscillator 1, 2, I don't know, resonance, and then turn that up. And what does this sound like? It's probably gonna blow our ears out, but let's see. It's just so fun to use. So if I sound like a fanboy, I am one, because this thing has been just a dream to use. One little gripe I have after saying I'm a fanboy is just an initialized patch is kind of a pain to get to. You got to go to global, scroll all the way down to, I think it's 45. It's called basic program right now. Cool. So we just destroyed that last patch we're on. And here we are. So one thing that I love about this synth, and one reason I really wanted the Pro 2, was because it was a 4-voice paraphonic synth. Yeah, I really wanted a paraphonic synth, not a polyphonic. I got a million polys. Paraphonic acts very, very differently. And just by turning that on, you can already hear these notes. It's always the third one, right? You're basically opening up the amplitude for the oscillator level. So if the oscillator is down, like these are now, you're only going to hear the first one because that's the only one that has the volume up. But if I turn up oscillator 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Turn up 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's how you use these, but that can be used to your advantage because I love the way voice stealing sounds. And what I mean by this is, if I turn up the release, you can hear that the low note gets pulled away. Go here. Listen for the low note to just disappear. See, it's gone. I know that sounds, why the hell would you ever want that? But it sounds really cool. And the benefit is, if I go into, I think it's re-trigger on for the key modes and the amplitude level, we'll turn this attack up. So what I like about Paraphonic is this, that there's always I'm just hitting one note, but the tuning of the oscillators and their volume is still present in the amplitude section when I reopen a new note. So if we turn the release pretty high up, and then I play some chord over here, it relifts that volume again because that note is still present. And again, if we say BPM, we'll do something really slow. We'll just do a very basic ARP, hold it, same chord. We'll do this. Oh, here, we'll do this one. Check this out. Release down. So we have a very basic, boring thing, right? I'll change up one oscillator. Maybe make this one low. Change the shape of that. Cool. Shape mod. We'll go down here, up. we start raising the release. You get these forever kind of ish changing sounds, but they're not really forever because you have 3 oscillators and this is a 3-note arpeggiator. But if we add a 4th note, the 3 voices are now cycling on these 4 notes, or a 5th. Yep. So here how you sound, it sounds like a delay, right? Because the initial pluck is happening on the note, but then the next pluck is opening up a different note, but the previous note's amplitude and pitch values are still there. I hope that makes sense. It's really hard to fully understand, and I don't really know the best way to explain it, but this is why I love paraphonic synths. Like, listen how cool that sounds. A little more release. There's no delay. Again, let's say destination to this. Up. We'll sync that to 2 steps. We'll say even slower. Not as much. Just a little bit of movement. Yes, and there's slew. Thank you. We'll use also LFO1 to open the filter up a little bit. We'll go to show effects. FX2, we'll have it be a chorus. Turn that on. And I'm also recording this in stereo, so if you got some good speakers, yeah, you're gonna enjoy this. Yo. And to get things interesting, just change an octave. Or sync. What gets even more beautiful, if I stop that and I just go into hold and I want to hold a chord, let's just do we'll tone these down a little bit. Cool. So we're just left with this. We've got some chorus on here. We'll show the effects. Not so much on the depth. We'll add a little bit of reverb. Mistaken, we do not have reverb on here. That's all right. There's a high pass filter, which is great if you need to do some dual kind of shelving of the bottom end. So if you do a full wet on this, just to kind of get a little bit more airy sounds, that way you're not robbing too much of the lower frequencies. But for this purpose, we'll bring that back down. So effects 1, we'll do bounce back delay. BBD, bucket brigade, not bounce back. What am I talking about, dude? Cool. Time. Don't need to sync it. So we just have this crazy sound. Raw sound, no effects. just this sound alone is so fun to use. I mean, I'll drone on this thing forever. And you got your tuned feedback. Listen to that. Let's say we want to tone it down a little bit, get a little more calm. Also, another unique thing about this is that the shape mod goes through, I want to say it was 16 positions of a wavetable. So if you choose a new wave shape, turn this down. Now we're just listening to oscillator 3, which is the only digital one here. These are actual VCOs, not DCOs, voltage controlled oscillators. So they act very analog in nature. Yeah, listen to how many positions there are. Ooh. Oscillator slop, incredible. Yes, please. Where was I on what of my enjoyment of this thing? I mean, you can assign everything. The oscillators, I guess, is another section that's really cool. Another good thing about this is you actually have, a lot of synths don't have this, and it bugs the crap out of me, but it's on the expander, and I mention it all the time. Envelope delays. So if we say, cool, let's say I want this envelope auxiliary, envelope 1, to be assigned to the cutoff. I press and hold this, turn it, it's there, cool. And this is now by how much? We'll turn paraphonic mode off. Right? So check this out. If I go and I select this here, and we go over here, you got delay. And that means, you hear that? It's a little second pluck. It just takes a second up to, I want to say 1 second or 1,000 milliseconds to have the delay. Let's see. Yeah, it's way out there. 1,000. Maybe. I just made that up. But what's cool is that you can use this to your advantage. If we say add a little bit of attack and a little bit of delay and some release, it happens way after. Apply this with paraphonic mode. Turn this up. Boom, boom. Same with the aux envelope 2, hold that down, apply that to the shape mod, by how much, sure, this, delay, you can also loop it as well. There it is, right on time, super delayed. Hear this weirdness? Can I assign the touch strip to this here? Let's see, source, touch, destination, amount. Oh my god. So none, or a lot. So then our sustain would be where it lands. Oh, but it's only on the 3rd. So then, maybe I want it right there. sir. Oh man, so those envelope delays is definitely a big plus to me. I love having stuff like that because it's just a weird, freaky way to do stuff. Yeah, so you got envelope delays, you can assign everything. The sequencer I haven't gotten into yet, but we definitely will. And the sliding per oscillators, there's just so much in this that's just fun to use. And there's just weird ways of doing weird things. And yeah, you know what, while we're here, let's just let's just take a dump on this sequencer. And let's go to another blank patch. So right. Cool, we're here. I'm going to go ahead and empty these notes out. One thing that's cool here is you can say record and you can do add a rest. Cool, and then you just hit play. Right, as you would expect. Listen to that, it already sounds dope. Follow, oscillator one shape, wave reset. That's cool. That's a good one to use if you're trying to get punchy sounds. That way it'll reset the oscillator every single time you play a key. Yeah, awesome. So much in this screen, but there's so much on the face of the end that you can do whatever you want. Yeah. Negative feedback. Just destroy stuff. Okay, where are we at? Stop getting distracted, dude. We have the sequencer here, really cool, really fun. One of my favorite things to do on it as well is, let's say we are playing the sequence, and I say track select, we'll go to cutoff. You can see that right there, cutoff. Now if I hold this down, cool, just hold record, and now we got our cutoff recorded. Super simple, and what's great is you have, basically by default, these three act together. They're kind of tied because it's your note values, the duration, as well as the ratchets. So for example, if you were to mute these tracks, it would mute all three. But all this cutoff is there, and then you have 8 that you can assign, and then you have the CV outs. Because another great point about this that I love is all the I/O. There's so much I/O. There's even 2 MIDI outs on this single keyboard. So that is super dope. So like anything else, you go to assign. Once you're there, what do you want to assign that track to? Holding down the track select, if it's there, you just wiggle this. Boom, it's assigned. This is so dope. Press play, hold record. Now I'm trying this, and I'm assigning this knob, which technically has no effect right now because it's only for the state variable filter. But now that we're there, so check this out. The sequencer has normal mode, which is press play and it starts going. Has gated mode, which means it won't play until I press a note. Then you have trigger, which is super dope because every time I hit a step, instead of like gated where it resets and just keeps playing, trigger will only move a single step forward every single note you play. So if I play one note, you can see it's kind of jumping. What's great about this is if you play the same note, it'll just keep changing, and you throw that in with like an arpeggiator. I mean, it's essentially the same thing as gated, except you're allowed to play multiple notes and have every note kind of keep changing. And to take this a step further, I believe it's here, track select, we will mute that track, and then in the sequencer, oh, here it is. So if I hold this down, I've muted those tracks, but I can turn notes on or off. So I'll turn them off, and I can just hold down a note if I turn the sustain up. So now, the sequencer's running, so we have our cutoff going crazy, and I can even record on top of that. And then, what is it? Assigned track 1, which is the our low pass, high pass section. We'll make it not as intense. Just kind of wiggle it around like this. Cool. So now... And the great thing here is the sequence points, all of this that we're looking at here acts in accordance with where this knob is. So this knob will then act as the bias. It doesn't necessarily replace what this value is doing. So for example, if we go and say track select this one, I'll just mute this knob. So we only have our filter knob. You can hear it's pretty, for the most part, closed, but I can open that and there's still movement there. Or if you're going to gate it. So yeah, the sequencer is crazy. If you don't like the poppy, jumpy, sample and hold type sound, you of course have the slew, which will kind of gradually move between those values instead of just jumping around. You can almost look at this as an advanced LFO designer or a weird sample and hold that you can actually not be as random but hit a lot of different values at once. It's just really fun to use. I really like using it in the triggered mode because one single note becomes a crazy sequence. Or even if it's just playing and you hold down a note. Turn the slew off. Let's say track 2, assign that to oscillator 2 level, and then hold record, down, up, down. You even have swing. Maybe slow this down to 100. Or you have Paraphonic, and this won't apply, but there is, where's it at? Para sequencing. Press play there. Just do some weird stuff. What does trigger do? Oh, that is so tight. So now we're on one where it's quiet and oscillator 2 is turned down. Because no matter what I do, it's not there. But if I play another note, it's still quiet. There's oscillator 2. And it goes back to quiet. So let's mute that track so we can really hear it. Oh, and I'm also got the filter doing some crazy cutoff. Drive down, resonance down. And the effects are actually usable. Listen to this. Bucket Brigade. Two, we'll do phaser. Parameters, depth, rate really slow. Listen to this. Latch that up. effects we'll do. Ooh. It's getting driven really hard. Let's bring it back a little bit. So the depth is just kind of resonating the chorus. You got your dry wet. Can I show, let's see, oscillator section, show this tuning. Yeah, here's another, okay, hold on. So, you know what, I need to wrap this video up because this is going on forever. A couple things. You see how on a default, I'll just do it again, default patch. By default, this is the default patch. The filter, pretty much, for the most part, all the way open. We'll check it. Let's see. Yeah, filter's open. But oscillator has a slop of 5. Just a little bit. Just a tiny little bit, right? Same with the oscillators here. Oscillator 2, you go here, a little bit of slop. Here, a little bit of slop. It's little things like that when using a synthesizer that make it so playable, because when you go to a default patch, it just sounds... It just sounds good. It just by default sounds good. Even weird things like this. Up 1 octave, down 2 octaves. That's, again, weird little miscellaneous parameters that are by default set in the default patch. The reason I'm emphasizing this so much is because one thing that really, really sold me on the Pro 3 was at NAMM, when I went to the booth. Actually, you know what? I'm going to talk to your face for a second. So at NAMM, I walked to the Sequential booth. There's 3 Sequential guys there talking amongst themselves. No biggie. Don't say what's up or anything like that. Don't care. It's totally fine. It's NAMM. It's the 3rd day. We're exhausted. It's fine. I get up to the Pro 3, make my way over there, put the headphones on, and it's what these guys were saying amongst themselves that really got to me. So I have my headphones on, and before I even start playing, I can overhear them talking, and he goes, oh, but have you ever tried modulating this with that and sending this over there? And the other guy's like, no, but have you ever tried sending an LFO to this thing at this audio rate and doing that? It really freaks this one thing out. So immediately, before I even started playing, I realized that these are the people that I want creating my synthesizer, because they're in it for the love of it and they have a genuine interest in what they're creating and how they're going to be using it. They can imagine the sounds that they want to create, and then they just apply it into the DNA of a synthesizer like this, and it's totally felt throughout the interface and using this thing. And yeah, they're just in it for the love of it. And I know I sound like a fanboy, but that's because I am. I'm a genuine fan of Sequential, and it's Dave Smith. I mean, the legend himself making these synthesizers, which is so cool. And if you haven't seen any of the demos that he did during NAMM, it's just so awesome to see him light up when talking about synthesizers. And I felt that same feeling and emotion when using this thing. It's just so much fun to use. And yeah, before it sounds like I'm just being cheesy and overselling this thing, yeah, I love this synth. I've never bought a synth so fast. And I'm so happy to have this thing. And yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for kicking it as always. If you want to support, got a link down below, or you can just check this one out. Got some synth merch and whatnot. And yeah, I'm gonna just kick you here. You're more than welcome to stay. I'm gonna be exploring some of the sounds. And yeah, you already know the drill. Share the love, share the knowledge. Knowledge is power. Peace. Oh.